Drive is presented by Seneca Resorts and Casinos. Nothing else comes close.
With the 28th pick, the Buffalo Sabres are proud to select from the Czech League, Jiri Kulich.
And with Jerry Fortin's announcement, the Sabres cap off a draft unlike anything we have seen for this franchise since 1983, and that is 3 first-round selections in the books. And boy, Marty, they've gone forward again, and this time with another sharpshooter, this time out of Czechia, and someone who I think many would not have anticipated necessarily falling to number 28.
And I think the Sabres got 3 guys they really wanted, and they had targeted on their board. Obviously, it started with Savoy, Ostlund, and then Kulich now. I don't know why he dropped that far. I'll be honest with you. He is a complete player, plays a 200-foot game, does a lot of little things exactly like the pros, the NHL players do them. Look, there was some really, I don't want to call him weird, but there was some selection that I didn't understand through the middle of the first round, but some teams feel more comfortable with certain areas or some of their amateur scouts. But I know, and I think we have a feel now for what the Sabres have liked over the last 2 years, and this player is exactly what they want on the team. Fantastic pick late in the first round.
You save your voice, Kris Baker. Let's jump back in here because obviously we talked about a number of players, and we heard from a number of analysts coming into this. And you yourself, while appearing to be extra excited when Buffalo at number 16 took Noah Ostlund, that, of course, a result of the Jack Eichel trade to Vegas. This selection comes about as a result of the Sam Reinhart deal to Florida, and you felt what when they made the announcement of Jiri Kulich?
Felt like it was a gift that dropped into their lap here at 28, honestly. I mean, what you're getting is an incredibly competitive, confident player, wants the puck. This is a kid that fights for his space to get the puck. I just love everything about his game, honestly, guys. I mean, I'm not trying to sound, overly excited, obviously, but it's a player that, I kind of targeted for the Sabres because I think that he's a player that will play the way that Kevin Adams is building out the organization and the expectations that are being set by the coaching staff. But I'm talking a lot of the adjectives that I'm throwing out about this player are the work ethic. But I mean, again, highly competitive, creative. He's a speedy scorer. What I like about this player is that he's been playing against men. He averaged about 12 and a half minutes a night this year in the Czech League. And he became very confident playing against men and growing his game. When he got to the under 18s, and you're seeing some clips here on the screen right now, he scores his goals from the right spots that you need to score the goals in the NHL. They're all in the center lane. They're between the face-off circles because that's where he lives. That's where he commands the puck. That's what he wants. And look at his shot. He has an array of shooting skills. He makes picking corners look really easy. But, guys, this is a player who, even when he's not scoring, he's going to be contributing to the team just by the way that he plays the game, fighting for his space, and really just driving the net. Maybe a little bit of that agent of chaos at times. But just an impressive work ethic and a good for the Sabres here this late in the round.
So most points by a junior in the Czech League. That's impressive. He was, of course, based on an incredible goal-scoring tournament with 9 in the 7 games in the tournament. He was named the U18 World Junior Championship MVP. Obviously led the tournament in goals, was on the All-Star team. When you look into other attributes and defining traits, if you will, of his game, the one that jumped off the page for me from Elite Prospects and their overall evaluation of this player, accuracy. Shooting accuracy being one of his most significant traits. Is that what you see in Jiri Kulich, that no matter where he is on the ice, he has that accuracy that can deliver like we saw in that tournament?
Oh, that's what I was talking about when I said that he can pick corners and makes it look easy. I mean, it's he shoots the pucks from both sides of the ice. Again, it's always in the middle lane, though. I mean, there's shots from the house. But it's the quickness, the way that it elevates so fast off his stick. And it's not just his wrist shot. I mean, he's got a big slap shot too. But, I think really the one that really put him on the map, and again, I thought would have garnered him more attention in the eyes of draft analysts and maybe push him up the boards, even in the NHL scouting community, was that hat trick that he had against Canada. He just had some big games in that tournament, and he showed off that accuracy. Literally, it was a lot of it was on the power play too. But no, 100% Duffer. The way that he can just beat goalies. In really, when he sees a little bit of net, he threads that puck through a needle, and he's an exceptional shooter.
Bakes, let me ask you this. I'm watching the clips, and I see Victor Olofsson and the way that he shoots the puck. Is that a good comparison for the shooting ways, or?
The interesting part to me is his position, because all these things we're talking about, seem more like a winger, but they're coming from the center position.
Yeah, but just the release. I'm talking about, like you talk about a sharp shooter, a very effective shooter. Bakes, you talked about picking corners. We know Victor is got that knack, that ability to beat goalies clean. Does Kulich have that ability to beat NHL goalies clean? Is that going to be the type of look we should expect out of him?
Yeah, I think so. I mean, his shooting stands out right away when you see it. He can really lean on that stick. It's a lot of torque. And again, that thing just flies off his blade. So, maybe the shooting technique's a little different, but the end result is usually the same as how Victor when he fires. So, no, I think that, there's so much more to like about his game beyond the shooting, though, guys. It's the way that he just out-muscles guys off the puck. And, I mean, when he's playing against men, he's really, again, it's that work ethic that I think was really attractive. I think the offense, to me, is just a bonus in his game, honestly, guys.
How do you view him, though, in that center position as far as the overall game? Because obviously we're going to gravitate towards the numbers, gravitate to the most recent tournament, and build that component up. But the fact of the matter is, by definition, by their draft position here, they went down the middle with all three selections.
Well, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if the Sabres see him as a winger, to be honest with you, because he has a really good small area game, and I think that's going to matter to them. He's not the biggest guy, right? I mean, he's 6 feet tall-ish. I could see them, given the shooting skills, given again, I think the small area skills will lend to being a winger. I can kind of see that projection for him, at least, kind of like we talked about with Savoy or some of the others, where you want to start him off as a wing. Long term, he may end up being a winger, but it's really comforting for them knowing that he can play the center position if they need him to. I like him personally as a center. I wouldn't be surprised if the Sabres see him as a guy that they ultimately put at the wing for, more than just his first year or two in the league to bring him along.
How is the Czech League for development? Or is this a player that we may see in Rochester faster than maybe guys that are playing in Sweden or in Finland, that maybe the Czech League play another year there and then try to come over and play in Rochester?
It'll be interesting because, he has 1 year left on his deal with his Czech League club. Of course, just last week he was picked 3rd overall in the CHL import draft by Cape Breton. So there could be something there. That may be an ultimate spot. But, to answer your question about the Czech League, it's a decent league. It's not the best league. I think, if he wants to stay in Europe, if they have time to mobilize and find a different plan, and they may have already thought about it, maybe playing in the Finnish league is something they would look at. I heard whispers that maybe Lukas Rusek at one time was looking at playing in the Finnish league if he didn't stay in Prague. So, that's always something that could be on the table, Marty, where, but a lot of times too, he's still a kid, maybe staying at home, and keeping developing in the program that's reared him to this is a good election for him to make. But I think he's really going to evaluate his opportunities now, and I wouldn't discount playing in the queue and being over here in North America where the Sabres could just have, maybe their hands closer on his development. That might be an option that they'll pursue. When you're picked that high in the CHL import draft, a lot of times that implies that there's a deal made. And he went 3rd overall, so maybe there's something to that.
Correct me if I'm wrong. Is that not what happened with Ukko-Pekka Luukkonen?
It was. He went very early into Sudbury. And again, a lot of those picks, when the Europeans come over in the import draft, it's predisposed that they're coming over, and a lot of it's the marriage is made. It's a prearranged marriage. A lot of time the draft ends up being a formality.
And so because he's an 04, though, that means that he would have 2 more years of eligibility in the Quebec Major Junior Hockey League before being able to turn pro. So that may be, again, the long game that the Sabres may want to play and let him develop either in Czechia or in the NK Breton.
Yeah, and I mean, because he's drafted out of the European League, so the rights are there for 4.
Yeah.
But, coming over here, getting familiar with the smaller ice surface, getting familiar with just the language, that matters, the cultural difference. There's a lot of benefits besides, just getting him over here closer in proximity to Buffalo. So, I wouldn't mind that move. I don't have any information to suggest any way that it's going to go, but it is an option that I think is compelling, that the Sabres may push him into considering. I think I'd have to double check. I think that there's a coaching change going on in Cape Breton, so they might have to sort that out, and that might be a big piece of the story too there, that kind of helps tie that together if it's something that he's interested in doing.
Okay, so we know this. There were no Slovaks left to pick after what Montreal did in the first round. So they tried to stay close to what was, the buzz of this opening round, and that is the neighboring Czech Republic. But in all seriousness, we heard the name from you, Bakes, Lucas Rusek. He has turned into a really nice project, attribute within the organization already. This despite coming off a challenging year that was mostly negated due to injury, but he came back with a bang at the end of the regular season and in the playoffs with the Amerks, and obviously you're looking at a higher skill level here, presumably with the pick in Jiri Kulich. We've said a fair amount about this player. If you were with us on Sabres Live earlier today, you might have heard this from Craig Button when discussing Jiri Kulich.
Patrick Elias, okay, all he did was help teams win. He did it in multiple ways. Like, tell me what Patrick Elias couldn't do in the game. Okay, that would be nothing. And, he made teams better. Whoever he played with, he made better. That's what I see in Jiri Kulich. If I had to go, if I wanted to use a current player or current players, and I think this might be more of a little bit of Patrick Elias, he's not a Hall of Famer, but he's right on the cusp of being in that Hall of Fame discussion, right? So you can look at other players in the NHL. I just go back to him because the respect that I had for Patrick Elias as a player. I mean, I always use this term. Can you push a player out of a game? You could never push Patrick Elias out of a game, ever. No way. He was in it to the end. That's Jiri Kulich. He can shoot the puck. He's smart. He's competitive. He kills penalties. He plays in so many different spots in your lineup, and he's skating. And, I've always liked Jiri, and I'll be straightforward with you, Brian. It wasn't until I went to the U18 that I just said, enough. He's that good. He's just, I needed to see that next data point to just, give myself the confidence that I felt he was that good. But that's the guy I would compare him to is Patrick Elias. I think he's absolutely fantastic. I think, he's not, I don't think he'll go in the top 10. He might not even go in the top 20, Brian. He might not. All I know is this: he's going to be better than a lot of players that are selected ahead of him.
One of my favorite lines there from Craig Button. Chris, how do you respond to what Craig said about this player?
I thought I was excited about Kulich. Craig really excited about Kulich. As someone who grew up, I really liked, I'm acting like I'm a young kid now. I always enjoyed watching Patrick Elias. I appreciate that comparison that he made. I'll even modernize it a little bit more. I think I see, I remember watching a Bo Horvat type of player, and I really grew to like Bo Horvat when he was at the London Knights of the Ontario League, doing a lot of the same things that I see Kulich doing. Working in the trenches, making those hard effort plays, kind of fighting for his space, and just, being reliable in all three zones. I kind of like that. One of my favorite players nowadays in the NHL is Joe Pavelski. I see a little bit of that also. If he can, maybe he might not have that foot speed, but Joe Pavelski's a guy blocking shots, just kind of doing what it takes, and he can really create offense. I kind of like those parallels too. But, listening to Craig talk about that, who I respect greatly, Craig puts the work in. Mm-hmm. He goes and gets the viewings in. I have people all the time telling me they run into Craig Button at a rink. I'm one of these guys that sits and watch games on a screen. Craig's out there doing the work. I really appreciate what he does. And if he says Patrick Elias, it gets me even more excited for a player that I was already really gung-ho about for the Sabres.
So, Bakes, whenever we do fantasy drafts, right? You do football fantasy, you do hockey fantasy drafts. after the draft, you always get an email the next day, and it gives you a grade for your draft, right? So then we can't grade the whole Sabres draft. We got a whole other day tomorrow. But we can grade maybe the first round. I think we're pretty much in the same vein here that we like what the Sabres have done. So what would you grade the Sabres in the first round?
Boy, that's hard to say. I mean, if I go pick by pick, I would say that, I think the Savoy pick was probably an A for what it is because of his just scoring aptitude, his upside, and just his overall offensive talent level was, right up there with most of the players in the top 10, if not the best. The Ostlund pick, to me, I would put that as, I like the player a lot. I'd be curious to see what outside of the bubble, the three of us think about that pick. But I mean, for me, it's also in that A range. And Kulich, I don't think I need to tell you what I think about that. So I think, overall, for the players and the talent level, I thought that they hit it out of the park, to be honest with you.